Football! It's back, baby, and we are back here. Welcome to the 2016-17 edition of the Fantasy Football Stock Report. It is back. We are live, as always, with you. Chris Pearson here with you, as always. We are so excited and pumped for the season ever since we did the draft show live a couple months ago with my co-owner Nate. It's led up to this, and it is just an exciting time of year. Welcome as always. Thank you guys all again, all the subscribers, again, any viewers that we'll get. Thank you guys. This again is my 11th fantasy season overall. It is my, I think, 4th now doing the show every single week for you guys. So thank you as always so much. I have a blast doing this. I have a blast playing the game, and I know you guys do too. So we are ready to break down the matchups here in week 1 of the NFL season. We are breaking down, of course, who's to play starts this week, who you should not play or be a little bit leery on this week, guys that could potentially break out, storylines to develop as the season goes on. There was a lot that happened throughout the preseason that really highlighted some guys. Some big injuries happened in the preseason to really highlight and talk about. Some decisions that were made with roster cuts. So a lot to dissect, a lot to really get to in today's video to preview week 1 of the NFL season, and from a fantasy perspective, how it shapes up as I see it heading into this week. So I'm going to welcome again all you guys, and we'll be ready to do this thing. As always, of course, for a fantasy player, the goal is the same. It is to draft the best team you can possible in your draft, and then if you have to adjust and make moves throughout the preseason and training camp, you adjust as necessary, or depending on what other moves owners might make, you might want to jump on a player that they have dropped. And I had to do that a couple times here in the preseason and make my team that much better. And now, as a result of that, here's what's interesting. After the draft, CBS Sports rated my team's draft as the 2nd worst in the league. That's a pretty glaring statistic. That's an eye-opener to you, because you think, okay, you've got guys that are consistent guys that can score points, that can put up touchdowns. You're thinking you've got a pretty good list. But then you kind of look through it again, you're thinking, okay, maybe some of these guys, are older guys that don't hold up well, and then you hear reports that, oh, Vincent Jackson is banged up, or, oh, a Steve Smith isn't yet fully recovered from his Achilles injury, or, oh, Ted Ginn isn't going to be even at the top of the Panthers pecking order with Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess, or Alfred Morris waiver fodder. So you then have to readjust and then look at the guys that are on waivers and see who you can pick out of that bunch to improve your roster. So I got guys like Duke Johnson, who's a PPR monster from Cleveland off waivers. I got Corey Coleman, the Browns rookie, who's going to be a speedster and probably the Browns' top receiver for the first 4 games while Josh Gordon is suspended. Oh, by the way, I also got Josh Gordon off waivers because somebody put him on there, who's, again, going to probably be – and he looked pretty freakish in the preseason and is back into form. And I got I think those are the main guys that I got. But you see – you have to sometimes adjust, and you have to see what's out there in order to make those adjustments. I got Torrey Smith of San Francisco off waivers, who will be the #1 receiver in San Francisco. And, oh, by the way, Chip Kelly's got a pretty good history of turning #1 receivers into something special. I'm just saying. So you've got to adapt, and you've got to relate and follow the preseason storylines. Who would have thunk that in Minnesota – Teddy Bridgewater would go down with such a devastating non-contact knee injury, a dislocated knee and a torn ACL, done for the year, which drops all of his receivers pretty much down the pecking order. Now, I originally had Stephon Diggs. I got rid of Stephon Diggs now because I don't want to touch him with Sean Hill as his quarterback, and it might get better from down the line if Sam Bradford learns the playbook that the Vikings acquired. But Sean Hill as your quarterback? No, I don't want that. So it's all about readjusting. It's all about playing the matchups week by week. It's all about being fluid throughout the season. You don't want to stay too constant. If there's any changes that happen, injuries happen in the league, different teams make moves, and then you have to adjust to that, whatever makes your team better. Your goal every single week in this game is to put out the best roster possible that you think can win your matchup. And sometimes I know it's okay to think long term, but really, when you really think about it, you also have to think in the short term and think, who are the best guys that I can put out there in my lineup to win on a week-by-week basis? And that's really how you have to look at it. Every week is a one-game season. It's just like the NFL. Every week is a one-game season, and you're putting out the best team that you think can beat the opponent, your opponent's players that they have in that particular week. So that's what we're going to try to do here with week one. Again, a lot to break down, but what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go back to a format I like to do a couple years ago, and we're just going to kind of go by the matchups. I know in past years we kind of broke down by position and did it that way, but I like doing it more by matchup because we can talk about the storylines that exist in each of those particular matchups. So let's start with tomorrow night's opener. Let's start there because it is the big Super Bowl 50 rematch between the Panthers and the Broncos. And, of course, the big storyline in this, of course, it's not exactly the level that game was last year because, oh, by the way, there's no longer a Peyton Manning on the sideline in Denver with him now retiring. And the Trevor Siemian era begins. Denver has had a wild and crazy offseason with their quarterback issue. Who was it going to be? You know, was it going to be Siemian? Was it going to be Paxton Lynch, the rookie out of Memphis? Or was it going to be Mark Sanchez? Well, that question got answered quickly in the latter stages of preseason. Siemian now has been handed the job. Lynch is the number 2. And Mark Sanchez is no longer even on the Broncos roster, was let go. And now he's backing up Dak Prescott in Dallas while Tony Romo is injured. So a lot to go on there. You know, this is really going to be, you know, I think, again, just kind of like it was in the Super Bowl, a low-scoring, hard-fought, tough game. I think it's going to be that same way again this time around. I don't see really much changing in that. You know, if anything, the Panthers' offense, I think, is more dynamic than the Broncos because, oh, by the way, you got Cam Newton as that strong offensive weapon. But both these defenses traditionally are very, very strong, and they still are. And I think for that reason alone, that's why it's going to be tough to see points. Now, the guys that I like as obvious stars in this game for the Panthers, I like Jonathan Stewart. I think in this matchup, I think a lot of people are saying, you know, you should sit him because again the Broncos D is tough. But I think Stewart will find his opportunities. I think he'll still maybe accumulate enough yards. Maybe I won't find the end zone, but at least enough to at least merit RB2 status. Maybe a flex play. I think certainly he's usable in your lineup. Same with Greg Olsen. The tight end position is not as deep this year, I think, as it's been in the past years. There's very few elite tight ends in the league, and I think Greg Olsen certainly fits that mold as one of them. I mean Gronk obviously is on a whole nother level, but then below that you've got guys like Jordan Reed in Washington. You've got Olsen. You've got Gary Barnidge in Cleveland, or Kelsey in Kansas City, San Antonio Gates in San Diego. Maybe even a Clive Walford in Oakland who's going to be a sleeper, and I'll mention him in the Raider matchup. But, you know, Greg Olsen has a nose for the end zone, and when the Panthers are in the red zone, Cam Newton does like to target Olsen a lot. So I think certainly you can use him in this matchup. For the Broncos, I think it's the wide receivers. It's Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Let's be honest, someone has to catch the ball in this Denver offense. Somebody has to. They're not going to run the ball all the time. Even though it might be trusty the way they'll lean toward, Trevor Siemian's going to have to throw the ball at some point. And these two guys are still the top weapons in Denver's offense. So I think, you know, in the Panthers secondary, without Josh Norman there now that he's in Washington, I think it's going to be a little bit weaker. And so I think Thomas and Sanders can split that. And, oh, by the way, breaking news, by the way, Sanders just got paid. He just got a 3-year extension deal in his contract. So, you know, he's going to be, I think, wanting it a little bit more now. The fact that he just gets paid one day before the game. So just my thought. Just my more than 2 cents. Cha-ching. Okay, I know that was lame. But anyway, these guys are still the weapons there in Denver, and I think they're still going to have a good day. So I think you can use either guy as, you know, borderline wide receiver 2, 3 here in this matchup. They're still startable. I think you can still use these guys. Other guys you can start, obviously, And a lot of people also I've seen online are saying to sit Cam Newton, kind of a bust alert. He's too good to sit. I understand the matchup is tough, and I understand that the Broncos D at home will pose a challenge to Cam Newton as they did in Super Bowl 50. But so I can't. So obviously he's not going to be like an elite QB1 matchup this week. But compared to the other quarterbacks out there, you really can't afford to sit Cam unless you've got a better streaming option. Say you have a Derek Carr, for example. I maybe would start Derek Carr over Cam Newton because of the better matchup against the Saints. But I think unless you have that on your roster out there, I don't think you can afford really to sit Cam Newton. Plus, again, it's kind of like the advantage of having players on a Thursday or on a Monday is you get a leg up or a kick back on your competition. So you get some early points early, you get an early lead, and then see where it goes from there. You kind of get a head start on your opponent if your opponent has no one in the Thursday game, and say you've got Cam Newton and say either Newton or Stewart or Newart or Newart. Wow. There's the first blooper of the season. Newart. Cam Newart. I don't even know who that is. Is he related to Bob Newart? I don't know. Cam Newart. But anyway, if say you've got a Newton and Stewart, or say you've got a Newton and Sanders, or say you've got a Newton Thomas or something to that effect, then you have a head start on your opponent and have early points. So I don't think you can sit Cam Newton if you don't have a better option ahead of him. Both defenses, obviously, I mentioned the fact this game's going to be lower scoring. Both the STs are going to be great for this matchup. The opportunity is going to be there to keep these offenses in check for the most part. Not going to give up a ton of yards. Certainly not a lot of points. Maybe opportunity for some turnovers. Of course, again, with the secondaries, with Aqib Talib still there in Denver, Von Miller on the Denver front, the Carolina front with K'Wan Short and Kuechly. I mean, this is going to be potential for some opportunities for these defenses to shine. So I like both DSTs in this matchup. I think they will have at least double-digit fantasy days, maybe even more around like the 10, 11, 12 range. Not high numbers, but at least enough to merit good finishing status in your league. And I'm going to say Devin Funchess of Carolina is a start. And I know that's a risk, but here's the thing. A lot of people around Carolina in the Panthers circle in training camp have said that Devin Funchess is actually looking better than Kelvin Benjamin and will probably outscore him this season. And really, when you think about it, that's understandable because Kelvin Benjamin, of course, is coming off that devastating ACL injury that cost him all of last season. So we haven't seen Kelvin Benjamin in-game action since then. So it's going to be hard to gauge Kelvin Benjamin based on seeing how he comes back from that injury. So I like Devin Funchess here. I like him maybe again along a wide receiver 2 or 3 plane. He's kind of though on the same plane. I wouldn't say he's highly exceeding Kelvin Benjamin just yet. It's kind of like here and Benjamin's here. They're kind of almost on the same level, if you will. But we got to see how Benjamin responds coming back from that injury. So Funchess, I think, is certainly usable in this matchup. That's really what I'm going to say here. I think along that wide receiver 2 line. Now, Benjamin, to me, I think is a sit. I think he's a bigger risk because, again, coming back from that injury, let's see how he is in that first game back before we really go crazy about Kelvin Benjamin. At worst, to me, a low-end wide receiver 3, certainly with the wide receiver 2 upside if he gets looks, but I wouldn't go too crazy on him right away. See how he is, see how he adjusts to getting back into the flow of things. So, I mean, again, at worst, you can play him as a desperate, wide receiver 3 play, but I wouldn't plug him into too many lineups just until you really see what he's going to do his first game back. In terms of other sits, Trevor Siemian, I mean, it's his first game as a starter in the NFL. It's his first true starting action. And, you're going up against this elite defensive unit in Carolina. You're not going to trust Trevor Siemian right away. And really, you really can't really fully trust a Denver starter at quarterback right now unless they really see what the offense is going to bring and deliver. Maybe in the right matchup you could use them, but this one, no, I'd look elsewhere here. Denver running backs, you guys should all know how I feel about them by now. For gosh sakes, they just got rid of Ronnie Hillman, who actually led the team in rushing last year. They got rid of him, and now they have Devontae Booker, the rookie out of Utah, backing up C.J. Anderson. But, of course, you guys know how I feel about C.J. Anderson considering his bust year when he was on my team a couple years ago. So I'm done with Denver running backs. I'm just not sold on them right now. Until they actually show me something, until they actually show me a way that they're not going to be a bust on a week-by-week basis, I'm not sold on Denver running backs. Plus, the matchup isn't great anyway, so I'm not starting a Denver running back this week. No, not even C.J. Anderson. Can't do it. And then Virgil Green, the Denver tight end, new role here for Green. But until he can clearly develop that rapport with Simeon and whoever the starter eventually turns out to be, I can't trust Virgil Green yet at tight end. I just don't think yet he's worthy of starting consideration until he develops some kind of rapport with Trevor Simeon. Okay. All right, so that's the Thursday matchup. So now moving on to the Sunday games, and we're going to dive right in. This, to me, is my offensive game of the week. And I know there's a lot of games that potentially could say that, but it might surprise you that I'm going with this game as offensive game of the week. But I'm going to say it right here because I think it is. It's Packers at Jaguars. You heard me. I said it, and because we know how many points the Packers can put up on a regular basis. We know that. But here's the thing. They're playing Jacksonville, yes, but Jacksonville's gotten better on the offensive side of the ball. And, oh, by the way, even if this game turns into a blowout, I think we know that the Jacksonville Jaguars are the quote-unquote kings of garbage time. I think we know that. They can put up points in bunches in garbage time and still do well for you. So I'm recommending a lot of guys to start in this game, in this matchup. For the Packers, I think your obvious three, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, Eddie Lacy at running back, who, by the way, has done a complete transformation and lost a ton of weight in the offseason and now looks more like the Eddie Lacy we expect to see, not like the overweight Eddie Lacy that we saw at times last season that was big and puffy and couldn't run the ball for nothing, But he's back. I think you definitely can use him. And Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb right now is pretty much going to be the top option until we see that whether or not Jordy Nelson can be back to being the top option there in Green Bay. Is he going to be, full go guy, as his coach has said? But Randall Cobb for sure is an okay option. And I'm going with Jared Cook. And I know some depth charts are kind of mixed right now. Or someone's saying, oh, no, it's Richard Rodgers that's actually the top tight end there in Green Bay. Or others saying it's Cook. I think Cook actually is the better option. I think he's more reliable pass catcher than Richard Rodgers is. If it were me, maybe, it's more, again, either guy is more of a low tight end, 1 or 2. But I think whoever gets a start is going to be a decent option because Green Bay utilizes their tight ends. We've seen that. So I think either way, you're going to be okay there at that position. For the Jags, again, I think the obvious four here, Blake Bortles at quarterback, Allen Robinson, their top wide receiver, Allen Hurns is more of a wide receiver, maybe wide receiver 3 strong option for you, and Julius Thomas at tight end, who when he came into Jacksonville, he really caught on quickly the latter part of last season and became a really good weapon in this offense. So I think those guys are your starts. And obviously Jordy Nelson is a start as long as he is, fully healthy and not showing any ill effects from the knee injury that took him out last year. If his coach says 100%, I think you got to start him with confidence. Said he's going to go full bore, so I think Jordy Nelson has to be the guy. So as long as that's the case, you start him with confidence, you put him in your lineup, and hopefully he pans out well for you. The sit-em, really, there isn't a whole lot here, but the Jaguars running backs, I'm not really fond of either guy here in Jacksonville, whether it's Chris Ivory or TJ Yeldon. Chris Ivory actually did great things with the Jets because the Jets system is designed to be more of a running type system. Even though Ryan Fitzpatrick can throw the ball well to his good receivers, Chris Ivory fit the Jets mold more than I think he will in Jacksonville. Jacksonville really has never really been traditionally after Maurice Jones-Drew. Jacksonville has never really had with me a solid running back. They've been through the likes of Toby Gerhart and Denard Robinson and Storm Johnson. Remember that experiment? And all these other guys that have completely failed. So it worries me. And really, Yeldon, we can't say much about Yeldon. We can't really say he's a bust yet. But then again, we can't really say he's elite either because he hasn't shown that flash the Jaguars wanted to draft him for. So and he's also been injury prone. So it worries me with either of these backs. So they're not elite. Neither is an elite play. They're more really like desperate RB3 plays. Maybe as a desperate flex if you're desperate. I'd prefer Ivory to Yeldon because I think Ivory's going to get the bulk of the work. But to me, he's just more of that RB3 flex play until we really see if the Jaguars are going to utilize the run more this season or if they're going to keep relying on Bortles to throw the football. And I think they're going to have to in this game, considering it's going to be, either it's going to be a shootout or it's going to be the Packers opening the floodgates early and then Jacksonville having to play catch up. They're going to abandon the run. So with me, I don't like either guy. And for obvious reasons, again, I don't like both defenses in this game. You may want to think, take the flyer on a Packers defense because they might get, an interception of Bortles or two, or a fumble or a touchdown, special teams, whatever. I wouldn't do it because again, the Jags know how to score points. They're better on offense. I wouldn't do it. Not a recommended play for me this week. So that's my offensive game of the week this week. And there's a lot of other games that are really, really good. I think offensively is the way to go. Chargers at Chiefs, two AFC West teams that obviously don't like each other. This game always tends to be entertaining. Either way, normally, there's some big hits in this game. The offenses tend to break out a little bit. So I like a lot of guys in this game as well. There's a couple guys I don't like, but a lot of the guys in this matchup I do like. So for the obvious, for the Chargers, Phillip Rivers, traditionally he might have struggled against Kansas City, but too good a quarterback to sit. I think he's still going to have his opportunities to put up, decent amount of yards, maybe not a whole lot of touchdowns, but still going to be, at least low-end QB1, high-end QB2, regardless. I like Danny Woodhead in this matchup, especially, of course, the PPR, the flex leagues, or it's a flex play. I love Danny Woodhead. He, as you guys know, I've drafted him tons of times in the past, and I've paid many dividends with Danny Woodhead. The guy is just an absolute insane player on third down, passing situations, in the red zone. He makes it happen. He's another great weapon for Rivers to have. When Melvin Gordon's struggling, and they need a big play on third down or passing down, DW comes in and just makes magic happen. I don't know how he does it, but he does. So he's a great play there. Keenan Allen obviously is back. He's healthy. He's once again Phillip Rivers' top option, and you start him with confidence as well. And Antonio Gates at tight end. Obviously, yes, he's kind of like the ageless veteran. He just continues to put up great numbers. Now with Ladarius Green gone and going to Pittsburgh now, he's once again the main guy at tight end, and he's going to be that weapon that Phillip Rivers relies on in the red zone as well. For the Chiefs, I think Jeremy Maclin is a good play this week. Yes, traditionally he has struggled against the against the Chargers in the past. He has, there's been tough games, but he is Alex Smith's most reliable weapon. And I think, outside maybe of Travis Kelce, who is also a good play in this matchup. So I like Maclin. I like Kelce in this matchup. I think both guys are solid starts. Maclin is a wide receiver 2 at the very least. Kelce is probably a low-end tight end 1, high-end 2. I think both guys will do really well in this matchup. And the Chiefs defense. Even though the Chargers can put up points in bunches at times, there's also times the Chargers have tended to struggle. Rivers can throw some interceptions. Eric Berry, I believe, will play in this game from what I've read and heard. He will be active, so I think the Chiefs are going to be ready to go with a lot of their strong guys, especially up front as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I have the Chiefs defense. I'm starting them, of course, in my league. So I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do this season as well. A couple other Chiefs you want to start this week. Alex Smith, I think, is also a very good play this week at quarterback as well. The Chargers defense is very shaky at best. They've really struggled over the years, especially with their secondary. They've been, beaten a lot of times by good teams. So at least in this matchup, I think Smith is a high-end QB2 with definite QB1 upside. I think certainly you might even consider, again, playing Alex Smith over a Cam Newton. I think that could be certainly, borderline, but certainly, again, with a good matchup here, I think Alex Smith could very well outscore Cam Newton. I would not be shocked at that if that happened this week. So this is a good matchup for him, and I think you can take advantage of it. And Spencer Ware, the Chiefs running back, if you were lucky enough to pay attention to the offseason trends, and Jamal Charles still wasn't fully recovered yet from his injury that he suffered last season, and you picked up Spencer Ware, good for you, because it's all signs pointing to that Jamal Charles will not play this week. He's not yet fully recovered yet, not ready to be, not game ready yet for week 1. So Spencer Ware becomes the Chiefs back to play this week. Definitely got high-end RB1 upside. In fact, I believe he is the highest scoring projected running back this week on CBS Sports. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. So if you got him, start him. He's a great play this week, and I think he's going to do some big things against that Chargers defense. A couple running backs I don't like in this game for the Chiefs. Tracandrick West, you really don't know what his role is now. I mean, yes, with Charles out, it kind of helps the fact now that, okay, he's now kind of the third down or the passing down back guy behind Spencer Ware, but you don't know if that role is really well defined. He's not really consistent enough in that role. Just very risky. I think it's going to be Ware's day more than anything. I don't even think he warrants RB3 or flex consideration. I think you'd be better off just keeping Tracandrick West either on your bench as a stash or on waivers, because I don't think he really has a well-defined role. And again, I mentioned Melvin Gordon. Until he really shows me something, I'm not impressed with Melvin Gordon. Again, I drafted him last year, and he was an absolute bust. Danny Wood had completely outshone him in every facet of the game. Again, I've said, in my opinion, not the best back on the roster, and plus the matchup does him no favors. So I'm not playing Melvin Gordon this week either. I just don't like the matchup, and I just don't like the fact that he's getting outshined by Danny Woodhead. Raiders-Saints. This could also be a fun matchup on Sunday at 1 o'clock. This could also be very much an offensive slugfest. Well, this probably was a good candidate for co-offensive game of the week, because both these offenses are going to want to feast on the other's very susceptible defense. So the obvious starts for me for the Raiders, any of their skill weapons you're going to want to use in this game. Latavius Murray at running back. The guy is just freakish. He took over the starting job from Darren McFadden last year and literally ran with it. He's the guy to own there at Oakland. Definitely start him. But I also like his backup, DeAndre Washington. If you have not seen this guy in preseason, you've been missing out, because he has been a treat to watch. And so in PPR leagues, I think certainly DeAndre Washington can be very much utilized in this matchup as a strong RB2 and a strong flex play. Very much a very sneaky play this week. I think DeAndre Washington might even find the end zone. I think he can make some noise this week as well. And obviously, you're going to start both your Raiders wide receivers, Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, the two favorite weapons of Derek Carr. For the Saints, I think your main guys are, again, your obvious choices. Drew Brees. Oh, by the way, also today in the line of NSYNC, just got paid. 5-year extension with a potential void in there. He could void it out after 2 years. But he got his money today after those talks at first kind of stalled out, but then they came back to the table and renegotiated. But he got paid today, so big things for Drew Brees, I'm sure, in store. Mark Ingram at running back, I think a pretty safe RB2 play as well here as well. Brandon Cooks, the top wide receiver, yes, is a must-start option. And I'm going to say Coby Fleener. And I know a lot of people are, if you've read the reports in the offseason, Coby Fleener's had a very tough time learning the Saints playbook, and it's been very hard for him to learn it. But I'm not worried about Coby yet. I'm not panicking on him yet. I drafted Coby Fleener, remember, on our draft night when I freaked out at the fact that he was still available in the 6th round of the draft, and we got him there as a steal, probably the steal pick of the draft. I think I'm still confident, unless I see in the game action that he really is struggling. I'm still going to think Coby Fleener is going to have a big year. In fact, I still think he's going to have a bigger year than Dwayne Allen in Indianapolis. I still think the Colts got rid of the wrong tight end. I'm just saying. So, because Dwayne Allen is a blocking Hulk that doesn't score touchdowns. And what do you want in fantasy? You want touchdowns, baby. So I think Coby Fleener and the Saints, again, Drew Brees made Jimmy Graham a star at tight end. For God's sakes, Drew Brees made Benjamin, I just blew up my Achilles, Watson, a tight end star. Sorry, Ben, but it was there. So, the Saints tight ends, it's almost a guarantee. It's almost a sure thing. So as long as Fleener runs his routes right and Brees finds him, he's going to be okay. So for now, I still think Fleener is a good play. So again, my other starts, 2 Raider guys. I'm starting Derek Carr in my league this week. I'm starting him over Eli Manning, and normally I wouldn't do that because normally I draft a Carr to be my backup. But this is too great of a matchup not to start Derek Carr. And everything I'm seeing, every media that I'm seeing, and I'm watching NFL Network and all the prognosticators there on their show, they are saying the same thing. Derek Carr is a surefire start this week. In fact, one NFL Network analyst even said that he would go off for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns this week. If you do the math, well, let's do that math. Let's see. If for CBS League, if Derek Carr has 4 touchdowns, that's 24 points right there. 400 divided by 25 is 16 fantasy points for his yardage. So 24 plus 16, that's 40 fantasy points. That's 40 fantasy points for Derek Carr is what that analyst is projecting. Holy crap. If Derek Carr does that for me, for my team this week, I might do backflips. Well, maybe not, but at least something to that effect. Cartwheel, I don't know, something. And I'm no gymnast. So 40 points would be absolutely outstanding. That'd probably make it the #1 quarterback for the week. So Derek Carr, the Saints defense can't stop a nosebleed, people. Can't stop a freaking nosebleed. They've been terrible for years. Carr should feast. Big week. If you own Derek Carr, you start him. And you start his tight end, Clive Walford, because I'm telling you, he has looked absolutely impressive in the preseason. I think he's one of the sleeper tight ends of the year. Plus, again, with Carr, great quarterback there. And, of course, the non-existent Saints defense. Wait, you can't. That's right, you can't. Because it's not there. It's not there. I mean, not there at all. The Raiders are going to feast on them. This is going to be a fun, high-octane game. You're going to want to start a lot of your guys in this game, especially your Raider guys. That's all I'm going to say. 40 points for Derek Carr, says the NFL. I forget who it was. I don't think it was – well, it might have been Michael Fabiano. I'm not sure. But 40 points. Holy cow. You only see that like once in a blue moon in fantasy for a quarterback. As for guys, you're sitting in that matchup, the couple other Saints receivers, Willie Snead, Michael Thomas. These are guys that are, again, kind of lower on the depth chart, until really somebody breaks out as the #2 option behind Brandon Cooks. I really can't rely on either of these guys. Willie Snead, to me, not consistent enough really to warrant wide receiver 3 status. Not yet, anyway. He might have his breakout moments at times this season, but he's not quite there yet. Same with Michael Thomas. He's a rookie, and as we know, rookies kind of either they struggle or they'll have some highlight moments and not great the rest of the time. So he's looking in preseason. Don't get me wrong. Michael Thomas looked absolutely fabulous in training camp. In preseason, he's looked good. But let's see what he does when the games count. To me, right now, more wide receiver 4 play. Not really starter role there yet, but certainly one to monitor as the season goes along. And then, like I said, both DSTs in this game, don't even bother. Don't even bother with the Raiders or the Saints. This is going to be an offensive slugfest. Bengals at Jets. This could be, again, kind of kind of one of those low-scoring, in-the-trenches games because, again, both defenses traditionally very, very strong. But you've also got a lot of weapons in this game that are worthy of fantasy startability. For the Bengals, obviously you're starting guys like Andy Dalton, the quarterback. Yes, he does have his struggles at times, but for the most part, Andy Dalton's probably one of the more solid QB2s you could get, at least low-end 1 in the NFL. So certainly he's usable this week. The running backs for the Bengals, I love these guys, Jeremy Hill, Gio Bernard, especially Bernard more in PPR leagues because he's that dual threat back. But certainly these guys are going to be putting up, I think, pretty good yard amounts in this game. Even though the Jets front is strong, I think you can still utilize both these guys in your leagues this week. And, of course, A.J. Green, the top weapon for Andy Dalton. You're starting him on a week-by-week basis. And, of course, the Bengals defense. Tough, strong unit in this game for their purposes. So, again, even though the Jets have some weapons, I think still the Bengals D will have a decent day. So I think you can still start them as well. For the Jets, a lot of people concerned about Matt Forte in this matchup. I'm really not. I think he'll have a decent enough day. you know, again, yes, these defenses are traditionally strong, but I think Forte is just too powerful a runner to really keep in check. You know, I know it happened a couple times when he was in Chicago, but again, that was against more, I think, elite defensive units. I think here, again, the Jets offense kind of fits more into the kind of runner that Forte is. You got to also remember about Forte, he's a dual threat as well because he can catch passes out of the backfield as well. And even though the Jets also kind of have that in Bilal Powell, I don't think they'll use him as much as Forte. So they're really wanting to get Forte more involved in the passing game. And with Ryan Fitzpatrick leading that offense, I think you know, Forte is going to be utilized a lot in this game, so that's why I have him as a starting option. And of course, the Jets receivers, Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, can't afford to sit these guys. I think, you know, each are going to have at least a decent day on the day. Marshall, again, is more of a low end 1, high end 2. Decker, kind of the same thing in that wide receiver 2 status as well. I think both these guys are going to have at least decent performances on the day. So that means then you start Ryan Fitzpatrick. He you know, signed his tender in the offseason. He finally, after threatening first to hold out and not even play for the Jets this year, he came. They all wondering for a while, oh my gosh, is Geno Smith actually going to get to start? Oh my gosh, no. Well, that didn't happen, thankfully. So we get Ryan Fitzpatrick back. You know, and again, the matchup, you know, the Bengals defense is a tough matchup, but Fitz plays better at home traditionally. He does well in these situations. So I think he's got at least low-end QB2 appeal. If you're kind of playing a streamer option or a desperate option at quarterback, you can certainly play Fitzpatrick here. And I think he'll still do, you know, fairly decent in this matchup. The sit that I'm looking for in this game, though, is Tyler Boyd. You know, the Bengals have to establish a true number 2 behind A.J. Green at wide receiver, and I don't think they have that yet. And, you know, oh my gosh, help us all in fantasy if it turned out to be Brandon LaFell, because, oh my gosh, Brandon LaFell has been nothing but a disappointment. You know that, you know, again, and I have to grit your teeth and say it, you know, Brandon LaFell, you know, because he's just been so terrible. But, you know, Tyler Boyd, he's had a nice preseason, the rookie out of Pitt. He's done some good things, but really, I'm not ready really to trust him yet as a wide receiver 3 option until we really see what his role is on the field. Is he going to be that big, deep threat opposite of A.J. Green? Is he going to have that role carved out? Is he going to then make more plays? Is he going to be on the field more often? Is he going to get those targets from Andy Dalton? So until we see that, I don't think you can trust Boyd as a starter yet in your lineup until we really see what role he takes on. If he did actually pass LaFell in the depth chart for, you know, for some other reason, you know, what's going to happen there? So until we see that, can't trust Tyler Boyd just yet. Okay. Next, Browns at Eagles. This one could actually be kind of interesting. You know, traditionally, both these defenses not traditionally very good. Especially, you know, the Eagles now under new leadership under Doug Peterson. Now that Chip Kelly has gone to San Francisco. The Browns have a new coach in Hugh Jackson. So a lot of storylines certainly in this game. How are these two teams going to look with their new coaches? And is it going to be a slugfest? In fact, the defenses aren't exactly great. You know, can you trust the players in this game? To me, really, there's only a few guys that are obvious starts. For the Browns, though, I do want to say I do like the Browns running backs in this matchup. I do like both Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson. Of course, Duke Johnson, a PPR monster, and I have him, you know, I mean, I have him on my bench this week, but only because I have Lamar Miller and Frank Gore ahead of him. So that's why I'm just always going to start 2 running backs. I don't have a flex position in my league, so I can't use him as a flex. Otherwise, I would all day and all night. But Duke Johnson certainly must play in PPR. He's going to catch a ton of passes from RG3 this year. He's that speed back. That Isaiah Crowell more is the ground and pound guy. Johnson is that speed burst. That saw him when he was in college at Miami. Has that burst of speed, and he's going to be involved in the offense this year. I like both guys in this matchup. Is definitely RB2 guys that will make a big impact. And as I mentioned, the tight ends, Gary Barnidge, one of the more reliable tight ends out there in the NFL right now. Certainly a strong tight end 1 play for you this week. Really, the only Eagle, to me, it's an obvious start, is the running back Ryan Matthews. Obviously, the Philly quarterback situation this offseason has been very, very, very tumultuous. With now Sam Bradford no longer being there in Philadelphia, now that he's out in Minnesota, replacing the injured Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe, potentially, right now he's a backup behind Sean Hill, but potentially down the road. That means now that Carson Wentz gets to start day one as the Eagles quarterback. OMG. I don't know how that happened, but it has. And now the rookie out of North Dakota State is going to get thrown into the fire right away, and welcome to the NFL. So I'm not thrilled with the Eagles guys this week as a result of that. But Matthews certainly, against this Browns defense, will have his opportunities on the ground. Maybe you take a risk on Darren Sproles in PPR leagues, but I'm not really big on him because his role, I don't think, is as defined as it once was. I don't think he's going to get as many opportunities as he has in the past. So that's why I only like really Ryan Matthews for this matchup. I like a couple other guys on the Browns roster, believe it or not. I actually like RG3 in this matchup. Don't laugh. RG3 has actually looked pretty darn impressive in the preseason. Now that he's got these weapons at his disposal, the Browns could actually surprise him. Well, they might not win a whole lot of games this year, but in terms of a fantasy perspective, it's kind of like the Raiders. You know, and Nate made the point of it during the draft broadcast. Remember the Raiders. Raiders might not be very good as a team in the NFL, but from fantasy perspective, with their offensive talent there, their players put up big-time fantasy numbers. Same story potentially here with the Browns. RG3 looks as good, I think, as he ever did with Washington, except maybe his rookie season where he broke out big time. But outside of that, RG3 looks like a functional quarterback again. He looks like somebody that maybe he could be finally the answer in Cleveland at the quarterback position. So he looks functional. The Eagles defense, as I mentioned, isn't exactly a world beater. So, and by the way, Griffin knows the NFC East. Hello, he played in Washington. He knows how the NFC East teams work. This is perfect for him. I think he's got at least a little bit QB2 appeal. I really do. I think he's a definite sleeper play for you this week. Now, would I say start him over Cam Newton? No, not necessarily, but I think certainly the appeal is there to at least play him as say you're in a two-quarterback league, and maybe you play Newton and Griffin, or maybe you pair up Derek Carr with an RG3. I think either way there, or pair another elite guy with an RG3 if you're in a two-quarterback league. I think Griffin certainly has that appeal because he's going to utilize the weapons that he has. He's got Corey Coleman, the speed freak out of Baylor. He's got no pun intended, who's also on my roster. He's got Barnage at tight end. He's got Johnson, the catching running back. He will utilize the weapons that he has. And oh, by the way, he probably still has good running ability, and he's gotten better at sliding. So I think certainly the opportunity is there for the Browns guys, especially in this matchup, to break out and have good days. And speaking of Corey Coleman, I like Corey Coleman this week as at least a decent wide receiver 3 if you've got a dilemma there. Because while Josh Gordon is suspended for those first 4 games, Corey Coleman in all likelihood is going to be the Browns' top receiver outside of Duke Johnson. He's going to be the guy. I think he ran like a 4.40 or something to that effect at the combine. The guy, and he was just putting up tons of touchdowns at Baylor. Freak. I mean, absolute freak. So I think he's going to shine as a weapon now. For me, it was very torn as number 3 option for me this week between him and Torrey Smith. But again, I'm thinking strategy because Torrey Smith plays on Monday night. So if I'm down in my matchup, which I hope I'm not, but if I'm down going into Monday night, I have one player that my opponent doesn't have, so that I can maybe get ahead of him long term. So I have to think about that as well. So it's really tough. But I like Corey Coleman at least as a number 3 in this matchup. I think he's got serious appeal. In terms of guys you want to sit, I mentioned him. Carson Wentz, you can't really put him out there as a fantasy starter until he proves himself. I mean, yes, the matchup is good, but first game as a starter, plus, oh, by the way, he's overcoming that rib fracture that he suffered in the preseason, so I'll have to see how much recovered he is from that. Not even really at a QB2 option yet. Just wait and see what he does first before jumping on the Wentz bandwagon. The Eagles wide receivers, I'm not impressed with. Maybe outside of Jordan Matthews, more of a low-end wide receiver 2 is probably really the only one that's really even worth taking a look at. But outside of that, you can't trust these guys until they really develop a rapport with Carson Wentz. And definitely right now you can't take a chance on Nelson Aguilar because, again, he was a straight-up bust last year, as I found out the hard way. So you can't trust him until he actually shows something in an NFL game. And then the other receiver is Terrell Pryor for the Browns. You know, he's the third wheel. You know, he's going to be right now. He's probably going to be the second guy, but he's the third wheel. He'll eventually be the third wheel behind Corey Coleman and Josh Gordon when Gordon comes back. You know, he might have a few highlight moments. He's looked good at times in the preseason. He had that big, like 50-some-yard touchdown catch bomb from Griffin in one of the first early preseason games. But to me right now, he's not consistent enough to warrant as a fantasy starter. Maybe more as a guy, as like a wide receiver 4 or 5 you stash on your bench to see what happens long term. But right now, not worthy of a starting spot right now. Vikings at Titans. Obviously, this one now has a lot of storylines to go along with it. Now, you know, obviously at first when we thought about the Vikings, we thought about, you know, could this be the year? You know, they still have one of the best running backs in the NFL with Adrian Peterson. They have one of the top young emerging quarterbacks in Teddy Bridgewater. And they have one of the top, now they have 2 top young receivers in Stephon Diggs and Laquan Treadwell, the rookie out of Ole Miss. But then all that changed when Bridgewater's injury happened. We saw, you know, the highlights there, the ambulance coming to take him away. We knew right away then that it was a serious deal. We knew likely that would be the last time we would see Teddy Bridgewater take snaps this season. And then we heard the news that it was a dislocated knee and a torn ACL, and that his surgery would be required and miss all of this season. So immediately the dynamic in Minnesota changed. Immediately they had to find options because the only ones they had in their roster was Sean Hill, and I believe like Joel Stabby was there or something like that. So they had to change course. And then quickly they made a move. They acquired Sam Bradford from the Eagles for a first-round pick in 2017 and a conditional 4th-round pick next year as well. So big move there by the Vikings. But right now, Sean Hill is listed as the starter ahead of Sam Bradford, although it says that Bradford will be available for that matchup. So keep that in mind. But right now, Hill is listed as the guy. So obviously, and then, of course, the big question with the Titans coming this year, what are the Titans going to do for us this year? There's obviously a lot of talk about the Titans and the improvements they have made, and you know the fact that this could be the year that they potentially really become a contender in the AFC South. Marcus Mariota now in his 2nd year. The running game, which has looked absolutely amazing in the preseason with the 1-2 punch of DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry, the rookie out of Alabama. They've looked amazing in the preseason, and a receiver by the name of Tajay Sharp that has really broken out to be the top weapon for Marcus Mariota. So a lot really to look into that as well. Getting rid of Dorial Green-Beckham, sending him off to Philadelphia. Will Kendall Wright play at all? His hamstring is a concern. Will he get a chance this week? So, you know, there's a lot to dissect about this one. There's really not a whole lot of guys that I think are obvious starts. Obviously, with the Vikings, the only guy really it's obvious is Adrian Peterson. That's really, you know, you're not going to sit Adrian Peterson. That's again, especially against a Titans defense that also reminds a lot of people of Swiss cheese. I mean, that's, you know, the Titans defense has been very forgiving over the last few years. So AP should have another great day there. For the Titans, though, I think you can start Mariota in this matchup. The Vikings defense really isn't exactly elite. I think certainly Mariota has QB2 appeal in this matchup. I think you can use him here. Obviously, DeMarco Murray, I think he's a start, at least low-end RB1, high-end RB2. I think he's going to get a lot of the volume work. And then Delanie Walker, of course, again, one of the better tight ends in the NFL. I think Delanie Walker certainly will be used very much in this game as a weapon for the Titans, especially, again, in the red zone as well. And I mentioned Tajay Sharp, and I think he's going to be, it looks to be at least, going to be the main weapon for Marcus Mariota as the season goes along. You know, and again, Kendall Wright's status is in doubt with that hamstring issue. Hamstring injuries are never good for wide receivers. So I think Sharp will be the beneficiary of a lot of throws this way. Certainly has some wide receiver 3 appeal, at least on the borderline. But I think maybe right now more wide receiver 4, kind of a desperate player. Really, if you use a wide receiver as a flex option, I think Tajay Sharp could be put in there as a flex play as well. He's going to get a ton of looks. I think he's definitely going to be a strong upside play in this matchup. I think you could use him again as certainly, you know, low end 3, high end 4, certainly a flex wide receiver play as well. As for the guys to sit, again, Derrick Henry, I really don't know what his role is going to be. Obviously, you've seen him as, again, kind of a back that can either take on the rock by himself or be a passing down back, but we're not really sure what that role in his offense is going to be. Is he going to be a goal line guy? Is he going to be the third down back guy? I'm not sure. So maybe you kind of use maybe Henry's kind of a what the heck flex play just to see what happens, but we really can't trust him full time yet until we really know what his role is in the Titans offense. And then for the Vikings, again, I mentioned Sean Hill. Not really until we, see what he's made of. And again, he might not even start moving forward if Bradford picks up the playbook quickly enough. We don't know, so can't trust him yet until we really see what he does on the field for Minnesota. And I mentioned Stephon Diggs, and the Vikings receivers. You can't really trust these guys right now because, again, with the loss of Bridgewater, I think it's going to be more of a Minnesota running game than ever. I think, if Bridgewater was still healthy, I think Stephon Diggs was probably going to be in line for a really big year, and Treadwell could have been a breakout rookie as wide receiver, maybe 3 or 4. But now, until these guys develop a rapport with whoever is a quarterback, I don't think you can trust these guys. I don't think Stephon Diggs to me is more of a wide receiver, desperate 3 or 4 play. Treadwell, I don't even think is even warranting consideration. I think more of a 5 or a 6 you can stash on your bench. So I don't like either guy right now. I dropped Stephon Diggs off my roster like a rock after Bridgewater got hurt because I knew that would impact his fantasy value. And even the Bradford acquisition is nice. Unless he's the starter, I don't think I can rely on those Vikings receivers. So I don't like him right now. Until we see something out of Sean Hill or if Bradford becomes a starter, I don't think you can trust Vikings receivers at this point. And don't even get me started on Charles Johnson. He still listed as a starter. No, Charles Johnson. No, he's just not good. He's not very good. He's not good. He's not very good. Bears Texans 1:00. This could actually be, in my opinion, the laugher of the week. This probably is going to be the most one-sided game. In fact, I'll probably say that it's going to be the most one-sided game. I think the Texans are going to win this game in a landslide, in a laugher. I really do, because the Texans are a new look team. The Texans are going to contend in the AFC South. The Colts, it will not be a cakewalk for them this year. Mark my words. The Texans are going to want to defend their AFC South title with the new toys that they have at their disposal. Brock Osweiler at quarterback, Lamar Miller at running back, DeAndre Hopkins still a wide receiver, but then you got the rookie Will Fuller now paired with him, who's a speed freak. And, of course, he's back. J.J. Watt is back on defense. He might be limited for this game at least, but at least he, in all likelihood, is going to play in this game. So he is back on the defensive side, and that's not good news for one Jay Cutler. So I think this game is going to be very one-sided. I think, again, they're at home. It's the home opener. The Texans are going to want to exert their will early and often. I think a lot of the Texans you can start in this matchup. Osweiler, obviously. Miller, obviously, is a must-start. Hopkins, obviously, is a must-start. The Texans' defense is obviously a must-start in this game because the Bears' offense is not exactly, A, very good, or B, banged up at a lot of the positions, or C, a crowded backfield. They don't know who's going to start. And D, oh, by the way, their quarterback is still Jay Cutler. And E, their quarterback is Jay Cutler. And F, did I mention their quarterback is Jay Cutler? I mean, really, their quarterback is still farking Jay Cutler. You mean you mean to tell me that you think, Bears, you honestly think this is the guy? This is the guy that can lead you to wins galore, to win Disney, to win Wahoo with coins coming out of the Vegas machines, and win the day for Chicago as your quarterback. The Bears are only as good as Cutler takes them. But on most days, do you not realize that he's very, very bad? Do you not realize that, Chicago? I can only imagine the number of Chicago callers on radio stations complaining every single day how bad their quarterback is. I can only imagine. And we've got Dave from Chicago on line 1. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, Jay Cutler, man. Can we talk about him?
Dave, go ahead. You're probably the 20th guy that has called today, but go ahead. Yeah, Jay Cutler sucks. I don't know why our team wants to keep him every single year. He's a bum. He's a terrible guy. Every time I see his dumb face in press conferences, I can't stand it. He's not a likable guy. He might be even less likable than Kaepernick. Whoa. Dave, I think you crossed the line there, Dave. What do you mean I crossed the line? He's not. Do you realize right now that Kaepernick's jersey sales are going up because of this protest thing? Where's Cutler on the jersey list? I don't see him in the top 20. Well, Dave, you're probably right about that. Exactly. Cutler sucks. That's really all I got to say. Even Stephen A. Smith. Remember when Stephen A. Smith said that crap? Yes, I do, Dave. It was on our affiliate, by the way. He said that. Yeah, that's right. You're an ESPN affiliate. That's right. Yeah, Jay Cutler sucks. That's just the way it is. He sucks, and we're going to suck until we get rid of him and get a real quarterback. That's all I got to say. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Dave in Chicago, everybody. But honestly, that's probably how it is on every Chicago radio station. Dave in Chicago calls in and just rants on how bad Jay Cutler is. So you can obviously know. My first rant of the year. That was pretty good. Oh, and it's got me laughing like that. Ooh, boy. So you can understand why I like a lot of the Texans in this matchup. Let's just say that. So I mentioned the guys from the Texans. The only Bear really I think you can trust is Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, when he's healthy, he's as good a player as the Bears have on their roster, and he's the top weapon there in Chicago. So he's going to have his moments, but other than that, you really can't trust any Bears in this matchup. You can't. Now, I like what I've seen from Will Fuller. I like what this rookie has done. And the Texans just got rid of Cecil Shorts. They let him go. So really, it's Hopkins and Fuller are going to be your two starting guys on the outside. So I really like what I've seen from Fuller. I think certainly he has wide receiver 3 or 4 appeal, especially in PPR leagues. So keep that in mind if you, again, need another guy for a good PPR flex purposes. Will Fuller is a name to keep your eye on as the season goes along. So my sit-em, you probably know who my sit-em is full of. Bears. You know that. You already know this from the first few minutes. You know this. So from the first, at least the last few minutes of the conversation, yeah. Like this, like that guy. You know. Sit your Bears. Sit your Bears. Bears suck. So Dave in Chicago is going to become the new mob guy, maybe. I don't know. But maybe we have a conversation between mob guy and Dave in Chicago. Hey, Dave in Chicago, how you doing, man? Hey, mob guy, how you doing, man? Hey, I'm doing good, man. You're living in Chicago, man, and you think, come in, but you're renting on your Bears? What's going on, man? Man, I wasn't originally born here, man. I came here during the Ditka days. We were actually pretty good. You were really good and stuff. And now all of a sudden, man, we're just terrible, man, because we can't get rid of Jay freaking Cutler. Oh, I know, man. Jay, man, I don't know what's wrong with him, man. It's like one day he's going off, throwing all these touchdown passes like my guy Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know Ryan, man, when he was in Tennessee and when he was with the Jets, man. You know that guy? Oh, man, y'all, we'd love to have Ryan Fitzpatrick here in Chicago, man. Man, if he was there in Chicago, man, we'd kill it, man. He'd throw passes to Alshon and all that. And he make even Kevin White something special. You know what I mean? I know, man, right? I know, man. Man, he would be awesome, man. But that's the guy Ryan. He got a good thing going with the Jets, man. He's making everybody forget about that Geno guy. I don't even know who he is anymore. I think the guy that got punched in the jaw, you know. But other than that, man, hey, he deserved it. I don't know. But, hey, I mean, but man, you're right, Jay, man. I don't know what's wrong with Mr. Cutler, man. One day he's putting up all this good stuff, and the next he's throwing interceptions like giving away free candy. I mean, I don't know. What, did Jay Cutler think it's Halloween every year? I know, right, man? Jay Cutler's favorite thing must be Halloween or something. Maybe he's playing on Halloween. I don't know. But, yeah, he's giving away stuff like free candy. I mean, it's like, what the heck, man? He just sucks, and I don't understand why we still have him on the team. He sucks. Our backs suck. We don't have a good defense anymore because Brian Urlacher retired. I mean, we just suck. I mean, and now we play Houston in the opener on the road. Oh, man. We're literally going to get bowled over, man. You know what I mean? The mascot's a ball. I mean, we're literally going to get bowled over. I know, man, and that's going to suck, man. I feel bad for you, man. You know, I need to call up my guy Ryan and see if he's got any sympathy for you. Because, man, give your man Cutler some advice, man. Give your guy Jay Cutler some advice. I know, man. He needs advice in the worst way. He needs advice from all of us. He needs to listen to a radio show because all these people calling in saying he sucks because he does. It's just, I don't know, man. But we need serious help. We need help in the worst way. If you can maybe make some calls or something to somebody, call our GM, call our owner, call somebody in Chicago, you know, something just to get, something going on, because really we need help, man. We need serious help. And Lovey, for God's sakes, Lovey now is coaching Illinois. He's coaching the college team. Man, what happened? Lovey needs to come back. I don't know if you go that far, man. I mean, he's doing good things in Illinois. He's doing good things, okay? But look, I'll make some calls. I'll spread the word around. You need some help. You need some advice for Jay or something to replace Jay down the road. Okay, I'll make some calls. I'll make some calls for you. I'll do for good for you. You understand? Hey, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I really do. Because we need it. Jay Cutler sucks. www.jaycutlersucks.com. Yeah, that's probably an actual website too. If it's a true plug, it might be. All right, I'll talk to you later, Dave. You too, my guy. See you later. There you go. And I don't know, by the way, if that's an actual website, but if it is, www.jaycutlersucks.com. Okay. So, yeah, Jay Cutler, you sit him. Jeremy Langford, you sit him. The Bears running back department is a mess right now. It's a crowded backfield. We don't know who's going to get the bulk of the work, whether it's Langford, whether it's the backup there in Chicago. We don't know. Jordan Howard, we don't know what's going to happen. And with John Fox in his crowded backfields, we don't know who's going to get the bulk of the work. So, plus, again, the bad matchup. And again, I mentioned Kevin White. Kevin White, gosh, poor Kevin White. He's had a preseason to forget. He had the shin injury last year that derailed his rookie year. You just really can't trust him until he shows he actually catch a pass or two. He's had a lot of drops this preseason. Been unreliable. So you can't trust him right now. Just not worth it. All right. Next. Bills at Ravens. This one, there's not a whole lot of storylines with this one. It's just going to be really, what we're going to see out of both teams. The big thing with the Ravens, of course, is who's going to lead their backfield. Again, their crowded backfield is another big mess story. The Ravens, they have Kenneth Dixon out of Louisiana Tech, and they have Terrence West out of Towson, who was a big star in college, and they have Buck Allen, who played well last year. And they had veteran Justin Forsett, who, yes, for most of the year broke his arm and was lost for most of the season last year. So, right before the last preseason game, they're making cuts down the roster. Hey, Justin, guess what? You're released. Bye. So Justin Forsett's off the roster. I'm thinking to myself, yes, I'm so glad I got rid of him when I did. Yay, because I knew he wasn't probably going to play most of the way anyway. Yay. And then 2 days later, Justin, welcome back. What? Exactly. I mean, it's like, what are you doing? So we don't know what the Ravens are doing here. That's, to me, is confusing. There's only a few guys really I like in this matchup. For the Bills, obviously you're starting their main two weapons. That's Tyrod Taylor at quarterback and LaShawn Shady McCoy at running back. I think those two guys, again, Taylor with as dynamic as he is, plus, again, the Ravens defense, no really longer the elite unit they used to be. So I think Taylor's going to get a good opportunity to get a good amount of points. So I think he's definitely a start. And Shady McCoy, obviously, the big time back there in Buffalo, I think he's going to have many opportunities as well to do a lot of good things here as well. And I like the Bills' defense in this matchup because, again, with the Ravens as banged up as they are, with the backfield situation, Steve Smith, is he fully healthy yet? Rashad Perriman's still out. So, it's going to be a lot of question marks there for Baltimore. So I think the Bills' defense is a very good play this week as well. Really the only Raven you can trust, at least in terms of the starts, Joe Flacco, I think, is a decent QB2. As long as the knee injury is not a concern moving forward, I think, certainly you roll him out there as at least a decent QB2 option. He's probably, again, one of the more elite QB2s in the NFL in terms of fantasy perspective because, he puts up decent numbers, but he's not like going off like Buku 20, 25, these 30-point games. You don't see that from Joe Flacco very often, but at least he can get into double digits and be a decent play for your team, especially in 2 quarterback leagues. I think Joe Flacco is as solid as they come. So I think certainly, he's going to have, he's got to make some throws. He does have, at least, some weapons there. He's got Kamar Aiken, who, by the way, I think is the only Baltimore receiver you can trust unless Steve Smith plays and is fully healthy. I think Kamar Aiken really is the only Baltimore receiver you can trust or play as a kind of low-end wide receiver 2, high-end 3 at this point. So at least you put him out there for that reason. But in terms of the sits, again, I mentioned it, Ravens running backs, avoid. You don't know out of this group who's going to start, who's going to get more playing time, what the role's going to be. 1 minute we hear it's going to be Terrence West, then we hear it's going to be Dixon. These are coming from a knee injury, so now we don't know. Then Allen's getting more work. We don't know. And then they bring Forsett back. What's his role going to be? We don't know. So I would avoid the situation. It's a mess. I really wouldn't. If anything, maybe if you had to take a shot on one, I think you take a shot on West, but more of as a RB3 or a desperate flex play in a PPR league at best. So I'm really concerned with the situation, but in a standard league with 2 running backs starting, you don't play any of those guys. I mentioned Steve Smith. I really, certainly when he is healthy, he is one of the better receivers in the NFL. And he's shown that even at his age, he can play well. But coming back from an Achilles injury is not easy. And then we heard the information in the offseason, which led me to release Steve Smith, by the way, that he had actually had a double tear of that Achilles. And it was worse than they originally had feared. So this is going to be, I think, very tough for him to recover from. But certainly Steve Smith, being as tough as he has shown that he can overcome things in the past. But I'm a little leery on this particular one. So I really don't think you can trust him yet. Maybe someone to monitor on waivers as the season goes along, but I wouldn't really have him owned right now or at least starting until you really see if he's fully recovered from that injury. And I know this might surprise a lot of people, but I'm sitting Sammy Watkins if I were you. I understand he's the top weapon in a very thin Buffalo receiving core. I understand that. But, boy, his health is really just a big concern. The guy can't seem to stay healthy. And really, he's kind of a boomer bust play. He'll have some big games. And other times he'll just completely disappear. And I owned Sammy Watkins at different times last year. And when I played him, he was nothing. And then when I'd want to play him the next week, he was hurt and I couldn't play him. And he had to sit on the bench and stew. And I hate that. I hate having guys on the bench that just waste a spot on your roster and just sit there. You don't know what their status is long term. You have no idea, and then you just have to drop them because you don't know what they're going to become the rest of the way. So I can only really rate him as a very risky wide receiver 2 or 3 until I really see what he's going to be capable of when he's healthy. I don't, and he's just very much a boomer bust for me. So very, very concerned about Sammy Watkins. Buccaneers at Falcons. A couple years ago, this game was an opener, like on a Thursday night or something like that, and the Falcons just took the Bucs to the woodshed. I mean, the game was over at halftime. I don't think that's going to be the case this time around, even though it's being played in Atlanta again. I don't see that this time around. Tampa Bay has gotten progressively better on offense. Now, their defense is still a question mark, so I still think Atlanta is going to have opportunities to score a lot of points in this game. But I think Tampa certainly has the offense to keep up with Atlanta if they can solve the Falcons' defense, which, again, Dan Quinn takes a lot of pride in, considering he was the defensive coordinator in Seattle before coming to Atlanta as head coach. So I think, but I think Tampa will hang around. But I still think Atlanta's going to win the game. But I think Tampa's going to hang around and at least make it more competitive than the blowout that was excuse me, a couple years ago. So I do like a lot of guys in the Bucks in this matchup for that reason. I still think Jameis Winston is a good play. I still think he at least has high QB2 appeal. Not an elite start, but I think certainly, again, in 2 QB leagues, you can get away with playing Winston as a decent option. I like the running backs in this matchup. Doug Martin is going to be a workhorse in this matchup. He's obviously the workhorse there in Tampa Bay. But I also like Charles Sims as a PPR player, as a flex spot, because he's going to get a lot of third down work and is a nice compliment to Doug Martin on those passing situations for Tampa Bay. And really, the only Tampa Bay receiver you can trust is Mike Evans. Now, I know Mike Evans has had a couple issues late last season with drops. He did drop a lot of passes down the stretch in a couple games last year, and that really hurt his fantasy value and his fantasy stock. But I think he's starting to develop a better rapport with Jameis Winston. I think they've worked on their chemistry a lot in the offseason, and I think that's going to be better for both guys long-term, especially for Evans. So I think he's definitely a guy you can put in your lineups to be a solid wide receiver 1/2 probably start for this week. For the Falcons, you're starting your big 3. That's Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, and Julio Jones, the 3 main weapons that really ride this Falcons offense. I think all these guys are must-starts in this matchup against a very very leaky Buccaneers defense. They know how to put up big points, especially the Falcons tend to play better indoors, at home, in the Georgia Dome. You know, this will be the last time it'll be their home before they move in the new stadium. But this is going to be big for them to kick it off right. So Matt Ryan, yes, start him as usual. Devontae Freeman, your main back, and Julio Jones, your main weapon. But I also like the second Falcons wide receiver, Mohamed Sanu. They got him from the Bengals in the offseason. And, Julio Jones, he can't catch every single pass. He's not going to get every single target thrown his way. So I think really with Sanu, you can really kind of do worse as a wide receiver 3. I think certainly he, kind of like that Leonard Hankerson role that he played briefly in Atlanta as well. I think he could do the same things there. So I think Sanu could at least be plugged in as a wide receiver 3 spot. But I'm sitting Vincent Jackson. Health, injury risk is the concerning thing with Vincent Jackson. Plus, he's getting up there in age. When he's healthy, he is one of the stronger second, number 2 wide receivers in the NFL behind Mike Evans. Definitely he has shown that. But his coach even said during training camp and during preseason, he was very banged up. He was just taking a beating, and that worries me. So to me, until we really see what he does when he's healthy, he's more of a desperate wide receiver 4 at best. I don't really think he can be a guy that can go plug in right away and put up big numbers. I don't see it. He really hasn't really put up big numbers in years. So I'm really worried about him. I don't like him for this matchup, and really going forward, unless he really shows that he's healthy, I don't really like Vincent Jackson going forward. All right, moving on to the afternoon games. For the Sunday games, Dolphins at Seahawks. I'm rocking the Seahawks gear today. I'm thrilled with their outlook this season, opening up at home of the 12th man at CenturyLink Field against the Fins. I mean, this is going to be another, I think, big year, hopefully, for Seattle. Of course, they got to contend in the NFC West with Arizona, who's probably going to be the favorite to probably win that division, or it's going to be a tussle between the Cardinals and the Seahawks. But I'm, again, looking forward to a big year, even though now Marshawn Lynch is gone in Seattle. So now who's going to take over the backfield role? Many thought it was going to be Thomas Rawls, but now he's dealing with an ankle injury. Is in all likelihood he won't play this week, but keep an eye on the inactive report for that, which means Kristen Michael gets to step in and now be the starter there. And he's done very nice things in the preseason. So we'll have to see what pans out from that as well. The wide receiver core has gotten better, and potentially and there's been speculation on it, but there's also been reports saying that he won't play this week. Will Jimmy Graham come back this week at tight end? There's been some reports saying that he won't play, some saying it's kind of up in the air. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him going forward as well for Seattle. For the Fins, really, the big storyline is the running back situation as well. Now they acquired Arian Foster in the offseason. That's a great move. And oh, by the way, not only that, but he supplanted Jay Ajayi as the starter. And Ajayi was going to be the guy that Lamar Miller packed up and went to Houston. And many thought that Ajayi would come right in and be the starter. But then the team acquired Arian Foster. They saw what he did in preseason. They saw what he did in training camp, and now have named him the starting running back. And again, as long as he's healthy, Arian Foster is one of the better backs in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. But the question has always been his health. And really that's the concern that I have with him going forward. So I'm a little bit leery on Arian Foster. So really, for this matchup, at least alone, really there's really no obvious starts here for the Dolphins because, again, this is not a great matchup for them going into Seattle, having to travel from east to west for this matchup in an afternoon game. And you're playing in a tough environment, one of the loudest crowds in the country, a tough defense, the Legion of Boom. I mean, it's going to be so hard. But for the Seahawks perspective, obviously, Russell Wilson is a must start, obviously. Doug Baldwin, his top receiving option from last season, I think also is a must start at wide receiver. And of course, the Seahawks defense, probably one of the best units in the country, especially from a fantasy perspective. You play them in this matchup as well. And I'm starting Christine Michael if he plays. As long as he is the active running back, or even if it is Thomas Rawls, I think either guy is a solid, at least high-end RB2 play, certainly with RB1 upside. But Michael has looked like the more explosive back during his time filling in for Thomas Rawls. So I think – so, again, check the inactives report for the game start and is released beforehand. See if Thomas Rawls is inactive. And then if Christine Michael is actually by chance still out there in your league, pick him up and put him in your lineup for this game. So I think it's going to pay major, major dividends. Miami's defense isn't exactly all that impressive, and I think it can certainly be exploited by the Seahawks weapons. So Christine Michael, a very solid play if he is the back over Thomas Rawls. As for the sits, it's mostly all Miami guys because of the matchup. Ryan Tannehill would normally be a quarterback you could probably put in a 2-quarterback league and feel pretty good about, but not really in this matchup. He's more or less of a QB3 for this game because he can maybe put up some garbage time points if the game becomes a blowout, but I don't really see that happening here. I just can't see him as a strong start for this game. Same with Arian Foster. You're the starter, and that's great, but you get the Seattle defense in the opener. Just don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Oh, too soon? Okay, sorry. Sorry. Just don't even try it, though. Don't play Arian Foster. It's too tough a matchup. I don't like it, so we'll see what he does going forward before we can really trust him, but not in this matchup. And the Dolphins wideouts, you can't, maybe Jarvis Landry if you're desperate as a wide receiver 3 or a 4, but outside of that, you can't really trust these guys against that tough secondary. You just can't do it. Richard Sherman's probably going to be on Landry most of the day, so try to eliminate him right away. So you really can't trust any of the Dolphins guys. It's not going to happen. And I'm sitting Tyler Lockett, and I know that's tough to do, but he only has a few maybe breakout moments. He only has a few golden things. It's just not consistent enough to warrant being a starter right now. At least Baldwin had consistent games late in the year, which just boom, 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 find the end zone with double-digit points, double-digit targets, this, that, and the other. Lockett hasn't got there yet. Lockett is great on special teams. He's dangerous on special teams. He's a great returner. But he hasn't done enough yet to really warrant being a starting wide receiver for fantasy purposes. So maybe more of a desperate wide receiver, at least low-end 3, high-end 4, but really nothing to really warrant being a true solid starter in your lineup yet. Giants at Cowboys. This one obviously is going to be fun for a lot of reasons. Notably, welcome to the NFL, Dak Prescott. It is Dak time in Dallas. Tony Romo, of course, unless you've been living under, a cup, a puck, a rock. You know that Tony Romo is out for many people say at least 6 to 10 weeks. Was the given time frame. Jason Garrett doesn't think that way, though. He says he's week to week, but I don't buy that for a second. Turner was out at least for a long period of time with this fracture in his back that he sustained in preseason on a hit from, I think it was Cliff Averill, the Seahawks. So, or it was Averill or Irvin. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was either one of those two guys. So he's out. Dak is in, and Dak has actually looked very impressive. I've been very impressed. Normally in the preseason, there's a few rookies that look good, but I have to say I've probably been most impressed by Dak Prescott, the way that he can lead this offense, run it well. And I even tweeted about it on Twitter. I said, and this was actually before Romo's injury. I said, when Tony Romo suffers his injury, I think the Dallas offense is going to be just fine with Dak Prescott at quarterback. And I still believe that. I still think that's true. And lo and behold, it happened. Tony Romo got hurt, and now Dak Prescott's running the offense. So I think Dallas is still going to be okay. And now Dallas is going up against the Giants offense, now under Ben McAdoo, who's going to be, McAdoo or Smackadoo, but that's inside joke. But, it's going to be, still with Eli Manning, still with Odell Beckham. The receiving core now, who's going to be alongside Beckham? Will Sterling Shepard have a breakout year at wide receiver? Is Victor Cruz going to be at full health? And who's going to lead the way at running back? Again, a very crowded – a really crowded Giants backfield led by Rashad Jennings, but you've got Paul Perkins behind him and Vereen and all these guys there in the backfield. Who's going to take on the lead role? So a lot of storylines in this game. This game always seems to be fun to start the year, and I'm looking forward to seeing that again on Sunday. So the obvious starts for the Giants, it's those two main guys I mentioned. It's Eli Manning, although I have Carr, so I'm starting Carr over him in one of my leagues. But I think still Eli will have a good day. And, of course, Odell Beckham, who I'm definitely starting in my league this week as well. The two main weapons there in the Giants offense, studs, start them. And I'm actually still starting Dez Bryant if I own Dez Bryant. I know you're worried that without Tony Romo last year, Dez Bryant tended to struggle. But he also was dealing with his own injury concerns, which also hampered his fantasy season last year. But I think, Dak Prescott's still going to have to find guys to throw to. Yes, he's a mobile quarterback, but he's still going to have to find, weapons, and Dez Bryant is still the main guy there in Dallas. So I still think Dez is going to be okay. I'm not worried about him right now. You're still going to put him in your lineup. You're still going to trust him. You're still going to rely on him. I think he's going to be all right in the Dallas offense. So I am saying that Dak Prescott is a start this week, and I know that might shock a lot of people, but he's shown he can run the ship. I think he's going to be okay. Certainly for me, I think he's a QB2 with upside. Now, again, do I say start Dak Prescott over Cam Newton? No, I don't think this is the matchup that warrants that. But again, I think in two quarterback leagues, if you need a second guy behind an elite guy like a Rodgers or maybe a Palmer in Arizona or something like that, and you're pairing or Luck, and you're pairing him with a second option or even with a Carr, I think you could pair Dak Prescott there as your second guy and be okay. So I think he's still going to have a decent enough day that I think he's going to warrant, at least putting up some good numbers. So, again, you could do worse. You could do worse your QB2, certainly some upside there as well. In terms of the sits, I don't like the running backs in this matchup. And I know, people are going to say, oh, why don't you like Ezekiel Elliott? Why? Well, I understand he's got the best offensive line in football. I'm sure the Cowboys have trademarked that by now. I understand that. I understand their offensive line is good, and the Dallas running backs thrive because of it. But he's a rookie. He's going to hit that rookie wall, and I'm worried about that. And he had the hamstring issue in the offseason, and that worried me. I tweeted about that, I did the pictures of all you who spent a first-round pick on Ezekiel Elliott. Oops, because I don't think he's worth that. I don't think he will return that value. I'm not ready to really buy into the hype until he plays, really, really well. So really, I can only rate him as a high-end RB2. I don't think he's an elite play by any stretch. Certainly he's usable, but I don't see him as this elite, oh my gosh, great running back yet because A, rookie, B, hamstring issue, and C, the offseason thing swirling over his head, even though there were no charges filed. There was that issue to worry about. There's a lot going on there. So I really can't fully rely on Elliott, really, at least in my opinion, until we see that he can remove all of that and play well on the field. So I can't trust him right away. I'm sure a lot of owners are. So don't be surprised if you're disappointed with his week 1 results. But if I look back on this and I'm wrong, okay, I'll be wrong. But I don't buy into the hype yet. I don't. And again, I mentioned Rashad Jennings. Same with him. Is he ever going to get any better? Is he really going to lead this Giants offense? In the offseason, the Giants all talked about, oh, yeah, he's finally going to be the guy. We're finally going to give Rashad the keys. Here you go, Rashad. Here's the keys to the engine of the running game. Ooh, we're finally going to give you the keys, Rashad. Here you go. We kept them from you for years. Like, you're going to share carries with Andre Williams, or you're going to share time with Shane Vereen, or this guy, I think briefly didn't even share time with like the guy from Cleveland at one point, that Peyton Hillis at one point. But but yeah, I can't rate him. I can't rate Jennings any higher than an RB2 or flex play until I see proof he's going to get better. I really can't. So he's just that he worries me that much. And then I mentioned, and then also, the Giants receiving core, Sterling Shepard, the rookie. We've heard glowing things about him. We've heard good things. That he's looked good in preseason. He's a nice compliment to Beckham. But really, let's see what he does in real game action yet before we really start trusting him as a wide receiver 3 option. Let's wait on him until we really see what he brings to the table in real action. Lions, Colts. This could be a fun game. This could be another high scoring, fun shootout type of game because again, both these defenses very risky. Tend to give up a lot of points. Colts secondary shaky at best, banged up in the secondary as well. Matthew Stafford looking good, developing rapport with Marvin Jones. He's got Theo Riddick as a strong back as well. So, and of course, the Colts now with Andrew Luck back healthy, the offensive line sort of retooled, but at the same time also sort of banged up, which is also a risk. So a lot of storylines in this game as well. But I do like a lot of the guys in this matchup as well, but also don't like us. So it's kind of like a 50-50 split on guys I like and don't like in this matchup. Obviously for the Lions, I love Theo Riddick. You guys know me. I love these dual threat backs. I love guys that can get out in open space as a running back position, can make plays. And Theo Riddick, to me right now, is the best back on the Detroit Lions. Sorry, Amir Abdullah, but I don't think it's you. At least you have not proven it to anybody yet that you're an elite running back or a #1 running back by any stretch of the imagination. You were a complete bust last year. So I don't trust him right now. I think Riddick is the guy to play, especially, again, PPR leagues, but certainly I think has RB2 or 3 upside in standard leagues as well. And Marvin Jones. The offseason reports have been that Marvin Jones is going to be the #1 receiver in Detroit ahead of Golden Tate. And certainly he has looked like that in the preseason. So I would not put it past that to be correct. I think certainly he has shown flashes. He showed those flashes throughout his time in Cincinnati. And now that looks like he's going to be the one to take over that #1 role left behind by the retiring Calvin Johnson. And he's going to be the guy now in Detroit that will get the bulk of the work. And he's made some amazing catches in preseason, toe dragging along the sideline, impressive. So I'm very impressed what I've seen from Marvin Jones. I think he can be started this week as at least a wide receiver 2 or borderline 3. For the Colts, I like their main weapons this week. Obviously, Andrew Luck at quarterback is a must play. Frank Gore, he's got no competition at running back. Yes, he's 33 years old, but he doesn't look it. He's been training hard this offseason. He's even said he wants a 1,000-yard season. He is going to go after it. Gore is going to go hard. That's why we drafted him, at least on my team. He's going to want it. So I think Frank Gore is going to be okay. And the 2 Colts main weapons at wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief, I think are both poised for big seasons, especially Moncrief in his second year. He's going to have a breakout year, his second or third year. He's coming off an injury as well, but he's fully recovered from that. He's ready to go, 100% for week 1. So I think he's going to have a big season as well. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what both those guys are going to do this season. And the only other start I like is Matthew Stafford, and I mentioned it. I mean, the Colts secondary, banged up, injured, weakened right now. What's Vontae Davis' status? What's Darius Butler's status? I mean, these guys that are really hurt. I think Stafford really has serious appeal this week as either a high-end QB2, but certainly with QB1 upside this week, considering the good matchup. And again, the Lions going to be indoors at Lucas Oil. They play well indoors. They play at Ford Field indoors. They know what it's like. So they're going to be ready to go. In terms of the sits, there's a lot of guys to sit. Again, I mentioned Amir Abdullah. Until you show me that you can handle being a lead back, Amir, I am not impressed with you. I'm sorry. To me, again, Theo Riddick to me is the best back on the team. And plus, Abdullah was in the doghouse for a while this season because he fumbled the freaking football way too many times. He needs to learn to hold on to the rock and tote it better. So until he shows that for me, I can't trust Amir Abdullah from a fantasy perspective. Same with Golden Tate. The fact that he's been surpassing Marvin Jones on the depth chart, and really until he earns, the trust back, he's also had a drop issue in preseason and in training camp as well. Really, I can't rate Tate as anything more than maybe a desperate wide receiver 3. Very, very, risky play. Certainly he'll get his looks, but to me right now, he's behind Marvin Jones and certainly a risk there. So I can't play him. I can't trust Philip Dorsett right now, and I know a lot of people said that this might be a breakout year for Dorsett, but he's unequivocally the number 3 receiver on the Colts roster. That's a given, but the Colts aren't going to use 3 receiver sets all the time, so Dorsett's only going to have a few occasional moments to really break out and make big plays. So, but right now, nothing more in terms of than a wide receiver 4 in terms of his value right now, really, unless Hilton or Moncrief went down with an injury. Philip Dorsett doesn't have much in terms of fantasy value. So really more of a desperate wide receiver 4. Maybe someone you stash on your bench or scout as the season goes along to see what he will do in this Colts offense. And I mentioned it, Dwayne Allen. I don't trust him. I really don't. He doesn't score touchdowns, and the Colts got rid of the better one. That's just my opinion. All right, the night games for Sunday and Monday. Patriots-Cardinals, the 4-game era of Jimmy Garoppolo begins in New England, but it won't be easy starting out for JG because he's opening up against the Cards in the toaster at University of Phoenix Stadium, the Red Rage, big B-Red, C-Red. It's going to be intense. It's going to, I'm sure they're going to be loud, noisy, prime time. The Cardinals' weapons are going to be ready to go, both on offense and defense. They're going to want to beat the Patriots. Even though I'm sure they would have liked to beat him with Tom Brady playing, any win against New England, I think you really hold high merit and high value on. So this is going to be a big game. This is going to be big, and I know that the team and the crowd in Arizona will certainly be ready. I like a lot of the guys in this game. I like a lot of your skill players that starts in this game. I think this game is going to be, again, a fun, offensive-minded game. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. So for the Patriots, LeGarrette Blount at running back, he's your bruiser. I mean, he's your main guy there. I know that Cardinals' defensive front is strong, but I think for the most part, he'll still find his opportunities. Maybe even down the goal line, he'll be the one that gets it in for him. So I think you still play LeGarrette Blount as a decent RB2. James White, I really like in PPR leagues. I think he's going to be that third down back. Of course, you never know what they're going to do. But I think for the most part, James White's going to be the guy, at least in third down situations. So I like him in PPR leagues. I like Julian Edelman. I think you can still start Julian Edelman. He's going to be the main weapon there. Even though Brady is suspended for the first 4 games, I think Edelman's still going to get his fair share of targets, and I think he's still going to be okay to play. So at least as a wide receiver 2, with the upside, I think he's still usable. And of course, you're not going to sit Gronk. I mean, regardless of who's quarterback, you're not sitting Rob Gronkowski. For the Cards, start your weapons. I mean, start Carson Palmer. Start David Johnson, the speedy speedy second-year back now to Northern Iowa, who made many eyes open as a rookie last year. Start him. Start Larry Fitzgerald, which I'm doing. Start Michael Floyd. I mean, a nice compliment to Fitz. Start him as well. And, of course, start your Cardinals defense. And I know that may sound like a bit of a risk considering what this game might produce, but the Cards will certainly have an opportunity to put up turnovers and special teams plays with Patrick Peterson and the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, now back healthy. So keep that in mind. That's why the Cardinals D is actually a fairly sneaky start for this week. Really only a couple guys to sit. I would not play Garoppolo in this matchup. Again, going up against that secondary, his first game really as a starter here in a long time. I think maybe even ever. So I don't like that. So I wouldn't play Garoppolo here. And I'm not playing John Brown. And even if he does play, the concussion symptoms, the headaches have been very much a concern for John Brown since he suffered the concussion. And those symptoms have been lingering. But even if he plays, I'm really not going to rate him as anything higher than a desperate wide receiver 3. But the way it's sounding, it looks like he's not going to play this week. But again, if you have John Brown, check the inactives list before the game starts. Right beforehand, see if he's active. If he's not, get him quickly on your bench. But if he plays, if anything, he's going to maybe put up limited numbers if he's limited at all. Again, more wide receiver 3 play in my opinion. Steelers at Washington on Monday night, the first Monday night game at 7:10. Steelers, your must-start guys, obviously, is Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback, Antonio Brown. You know those two guys, the 1-2 punch there as well. And the Steelers' defense, I also like in this matchup as well. Washington's offense not exactly puts up big numbers or big points. Even though Kirk Cousins plays well, they're not really built to put up a whole lot. So I think I like the Steelers' defense here. The only Washington player that I can really rely on is Jordan Reed, the tight end. That's really the only thing I like in this matchup. But I'm also starting D'Angelo Williams. And again, Le'Veon Bell, again, if you were living under a rock, you know that he's suspended. He was suspended for the first 4 games of the season for missing a drug test. But then he appealed. They got it reduced down to 3 games. So now he's only missing the first 3 games this season. But we've seen in the past what D'Angelo Williams has done filling in for Le'Veon Bell, and it's been pretty darn special. So he's a straight-up stud when filling in. And Washington's defense, of course, isn't that be strong either. So I think you can start D'Angelo Williams with confidence this week as a solid RB1. In terms of the sits, again, Kirk Cousins, really I'm leery against him going up against the Steelers defense. Very concerned. And there's actually been talk, really, that Colt McCoy is actually kind of breathing down Cousins' neck a bit. So that will probably maybe fuel him a little bit more. But right now, only I can rate Cousins as a low-end QB2. Matt Jones at running back, I don't like what I've seen from him. I don't like the matchup. He's coming back from a shoulder injury to stay in the preseason. He's more only of an RB3 or a flex play for me. There's really no Washington receiver that I trust right now. I mean, Deshaun Jackson is more of like a desperate wide receiver 3 or 4. And then after that, it's a big drop-off. So I don't trust any of those guys right now. And Sammy Coates. Remember we were talking big about Sammy Coates and how big of a preseason and training camp he was having? Remember when he all thought he'd be the next big thing at the second receiver? Yeah, those were good times. But you can't trust him right now. With Martavis Bryant suspended for the year, Marcus Wheaton, maybe he'll come in and do some special things, but not right now. Really can't trust either of those guys right now until they actually show something in an actual game. And finally, the late game Monday, Rams 49ers. This is the 10-20 game. Not a whole lot here to look at. These are, kind of two of the, the lower, quote unquote, cellar dwellers in the NFC West. They're not really the big, big gap of talent between them and, say, the Cards and the Seahawks. So big difference. But you do have a couple guys you can use in this game. Obviously, for the Rams, you're looking at Todd Gurley. Obviously, he's going to be the workhorse there in the backfield. So you start him with confidence, and you start the Rams defense with confidence because, of course, the 49ers really don't have a whole lot on offense to go on here. So you start them with confidence. Really the only Niner I can trust, maybe a couple of guys. Carlos Hyde at running back, I think you can use him, at least RB2 territory. The Rams front is very strong. That defense is very tough. He's not going to, he's going to be the workhorse back, but he's not going to, I think, get a whole lot against that front. So more of a kind of risky RB2, but certainly a guy that you can use in your lineups. And I mentioned Torrey Smith, and I am starting Torrey Smith this week for strategy alone. But Blaine Gabbert was named the starter over Colin Kaepernick, and he's got to throw to somebody. He's got to throw to somebody. And Chip Kelly, what he has done with number 1 receivers in Philadelphia, turning Jeremy Maclin into a stud overnight, turning Jordan Matthews into a stud. I mean, he's done good things with number 1 wide receivers, and I think Torrey Smith is going to be no exception. I'm really buying into him. I'm taking a chance, and I'm hoping that really sticks moving forward as well. But the sits, these are obvious. Gabbert, not against the Rams front 4, not against that tough defense. I can't trust him. Can't do it. Same with Case Keenum. Jared Goff, who they drafted to be their quarterback of the future, is going to be inactive for this game as number 3 quarterback behind Keenum and something named Sean Mannion. Who the hell is Sean Mannion exactly? So, if that's the case, if Case Keenum is on your roster, either auto-drafted or you're a Rams fan. Let's just say that. So, Case Keenum, you can't rely on him. Same with Tavon Austin. I've never been a fan of Tavon Austin because he only has a few breakout moments a game. He's nothing more than a desperate wide receiver 3 or flex play. every once in a blue moon, he makes the, oh my gosh, SportsCenter top 10 highlight reel, trick play, threw out of his back pocket, did the flea flicker around the back, something, whatever, kickoff return for a touchdown, whatever. But other than that, he's not very reliable. All right, guys, that is it. That is it for the week 1 breakdowns. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you guys have any comments or questions or thoughts on guys, any lineup dilemmas, guys in your lineup, guys that you think can have a breakout year, go ahead and comment below, or even on the on my channel as well in the discussion section. We can talk there as well. Also, want to hit me up on Twitter at Fearsonator. That would be perfect as well. It's you guys. And this is what I do this for every year. This is what makes football so exciting, another dynamic of it. And I cannot wait for it to start tomorrow night. I'll definitely be tuned in to Panthers Broncos. I'll be certainly live tweeting about it throughout the night to the guys that are playing. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Good luck. Go out there and get a win in week 1. And we will see you again next week when we recap it all for you and preview week 2 for you right here on the Fantasy Football Stock Report for your game, your team, your league, your home, right here, the FFSR. Good luck, God bless, and see you next week. Go get it in week 1. Thanks, guys.